like to tonight's WinCam, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead. Call the meeting to order. We're going to open with a public hearing. And for that public hearing is for 972 Main Street, PB 25-4. I'd like a roll call vote to open into public hearing. John?
Here.
Jack?
Here.
Carrie?
Here.
I'm here as well. So this is an application from the Treetop Group for use and dimensional special permit under Section 8.12 Main Street Mixed Use District and Section 9.4 Special Permit of Winchester Zoning Bylaw as it applies to the premises known as 972 Main Street. As we continue on this, I would like to ask John if you wish to continue to recuse yourself. Okay, so it'll be the three of us. And
will he be participating in the discussion but not the vote, or recusing himself from the discussion as well?
He is recusing himself from the discussion and the vote.
Okay.
Which we don't expect to vote tonight, either case. So with that, I would like to welcome, well, the reason we're here, we had continued our public hearing from 2 weeks ago. We weren't certain we would have anything at this meeting, but we left it as a placeholder. And in the interim, we received some updates from Bridget regarding some changes. And I'd like to welcome you to walk through what those changes are. So hopefully you should be able to speak, and we can, I don't know, Taylor, if you'd rather put up the slides or have her do it, either way, we can, whichever way is better.
I have your presentation, but if you would like to share it so you can walk through it, that you have the option to do that.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everybody, and good evening. We are back tonight after 2 weeks, and we were in touch with the planning department, listened closely to the comments from last time, resubmitted a smaller package, which I would like to share. And I'm going to see if I have sharing rights. So it should work. Can everybody see my screen here?
Yes, we can. Very well.
Very good. So originally, I'm just doing a very quick intro, as I assume everybody's familiar with the project and the history of it. Originally, we had submitted an application to build a 14-unit family building on 972 Main Street. I have to pedal back. I did the same thing as I did last time. I forgot to introduce my team. So Sid Gaylord from Treetop Group is here as well. And Mike Lübeck from our office is here too. So for the third time, maybe I'm going to get it right. So I just...
You did great. Don't worry about it.
Right into it. So we presented that last time on June 3rd for the site plan review, and the application was accepted. So we got written notification about that. That was great. We had a constructive meeting last time, and we appreciated your comments. We went back to the drawing board, and we present the following changes. From 14 units, we go down to 13 units. We increased the parking and offering now 13 parking spots instead of 11, which we had previously shown. We revised the front facade. I'm going to go there. This is the back. We revised the front facade to show Juliet-style balconies and opening more the windows to the front, because there was the comment that the sidewalk should be better connected to the street side. And I think it does help the facade to look better. We also added the back elevation where the board has asked for. This is still in the very schematic phase, but you can see individual garage doors, entries, and a rough layout of the windows. But this will develop over time as we develop the project further. In addition to that, we received written feedback from the town planner, from Taylor, and I want to address these more in detail. The parking increase, as I said, we match now the number of the housing units. And in addition, we also looked at the street side. I'm going back to the site plan. That we, as much as the street parking is not a number, not a factor in the allocation for the units as a parking, but I wanted to note that there is the opportunity to create 5 additional parking spots along the street, which is currently not the case because it's used as a curb cut. And that will help to alleviate parking within the neighborhood. It's not allocated, it's not designated to a unit, but I just wanted to point it out that there will be some more parking spots for the neighborhood available.
Can just not to interrupt you, but can
Yeah.
you check the Zoom because I think there are parking spaces on the bottom, but I can't.
Okay,
Now I
yeah.
see it. Now I see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's something was.
It's I think it's the Zoom things bars, which might be
Yeah,
the
the
way.
Zoom bar in the bottom was in the way, and when I move it just right, I can now see it. Thank you.
So we assume 22 feet long parallel standard parking spaces with enough distance from the intersection of Glenwood. So that was one comment was the parking. Then we had the public realm improvements, and these were all good comments. Glenwood is a small street, and we will be happy to work with the town to come up with a plan to address this intersection. We were not able to do that so far, partly because of time limits, but also because we don't have the survey for that available. So we don't have the exact data, how wide the Glenwood is, where the property lines are on the other side. We have only our parking lot here also in the official survey. But we will do that, and we will work closely with the town to come up with a good plan to help everyone. Then some of the board members last time suggested improvements to the overall facade, and I can go back to that. We put that a little bit on the back, not on the back burner, but this will be not the first priority right now since we have to go through design review anyway, and we're going to wait for the comments and work with the committee to improve the design. It also depends since the floor layouts are not clear. It doesn't make sense to dive too much into window allocations and such, since everything is still a little bit in the flux of where things are allocated, very schematic, and this will come any further. But the rough roof lines will most likely still stay the same. Then the front setback is a comment, and I'm gonna switch back to the site plan. That the zoning foresees a 12 feet wide sidewalk, which in this case will encroach into the private property by 2 feet. And with that, it leaves right now, so I don't know if you can see that. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit better. We put the dashed lines in. This dashed line here is a 3-foot bay, and this would be 4 feet from the sidewalk if this is the assumed 12-foot sidewalk. The footprint, however, of the main building is 4 feet plus 3 feet from this potentially future sidewalk away. So from this line to the potentially 12-foot sidewalk, it's 7 feet. Only the bay encroaches or does not provide for a 5-foot setback. and I think this needs further discussion. For the use, which was also highly discussed last time, we still want to pursue an all residential building for the reason that it is really very hard to implement a commercial or suggest a commercial space on the first floor in this current economic situation in this location. And Sid has actually reached out to real estate agents to get more data on it, to back more, which we couldn't really substantiate with any numbers, which is still hard. It's just the economy when you are in this business in real estate. It's there's tons of space available, but not easy to rent currently. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Sid, who can talk more about his findings talking to real estate agents.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Sid, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yep.
Okay. And if you are amenable, it would be nice if you turn your camera. And if you are unable,
Yeah, sorry, good evening, everyone. I don't know what happened to my laptop today.
okay,
It's somehow interfering with my phone and I'm just not able to,
that's
it's not on purpose.
that's
Uh,
quite all right. I just wanted to, if you could, I wanted to ask you to do
yeah,
so, but if unable to, certainly
no, same,
listen.
same here. I like when I talk, I like to have video on, but I'll figure it out for the next one if at all. So yeah, I mean, what we did is, um, you know, like last time when we met you guys in person, it was very good for us to know how, all of you guys have given great comments on everything. And on top of that, when Taylor has sent feedback emails to Bridget, copying me, what we have done, we had a pretty quick time frame, and Bridget and our team, we noted all the recommendations. I knew from the meeting that the parking was the one of the bigger sticking point for the board and also for the neighbors. So that's why we kind of brought in and aligned the number of parking with the number of units, 13 plus 13. And then also the other thing was the affordable unit, which we were actually not. We were just trying to see if there is a way where we do payment in terms of lieu of affordable unit, but just to keep things moving and kind of not delay this thing, we did assign on our current version one of the unit as an affordable unit, a smaller unit, one bed unit. And then the third sticking point, I think we have tackled most of it. The one of the thing was the commercial, and we do got some feedback from Taylor on it that which required and just a very extensive research on a commercial, that why or why not, and substantiate what, like a big, not just basic thing, verbal or what's we all really know, but to substantiate it. I talked to a couple of local brokers. They agree with our position on the commercial space on this side. Um, and then we reach out to a couple of commercial brokers to exactly what Taylor kind of proposed us, but we haven't found anybody so far to come up or give us the data. But I mean, in general, overall, all the cities and towns, I mean, we do own several properties in other neighborhoods and towns and cities. Like I have one Main Street in Haverhill. I know it's not same comparison, but just for the context, it's 108 River Street in Haverhill. It's downtown. It's highly trafficked, walked area, and we do have two commercial space, 1,000 square foot each. It took us 6 months to rent one side of it, and the second is still struggling, you know. We reduce price down, down, down. I mean, that is just that area, you know. And the office space overall, you know, I mean, we bought something in Salem, Mass, a big office building 2 years ago, 39 Norman Street, which is one Holyoke Square building, which is, you know, 60,000 square feet. And, you know, it was 50% when we bought it, 50% occupied, 50% vacant. And then we tried to keep tenants over there again and again, and it's kind of dwindled down when there were only like 10-15% vacancy. And then at that point we just said we are working with city over there, you know. We told this they wanted to be out too, and we are trying to get some different development project over there, and cities over there are pretty flexible and they know what's going on. So again, I don't think this is the answer. What Taylor kind of put in on the email to us to substantiate. We have at this point, but you know, that's the reality. Um, and you know, I don't know what more to say over here. Maybe you guys could suggest something to us, you know.
Thank you. I didn't want to cut you off if you're still talking, and if not, I
No,
wanted.
I'm
Okay,
good,
perfect,
you know,
perfect.
because I
Thank
don't
you.
have anything more to say.
Thank you for the context. And Bridget, I don't know if you had more that you wanted to say before.
Yeah, I just wanted to finish with that we are asking for relief for all residential, and if needed for the front setback for this 1 foot. So 2 relief items we are asking in the special permit. But other than that, for the presentation side, I'm through, and I hope we can talk about it and finding a solution for that, how we can move on.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you to take this off the screen so I can see everyone, and then if we need to put up slides, we can put it up from our side. Before we go into questions from the board, I want to know if anyone is here from the public. Because this is a public hearing, I of course accept public comment. And if you would raise your digital hand, we will give you an option to speak for up to 3 minutes. You should be addressing to the board, and I will be timing. I'd like you to state your name and address for the record. And like I said in the last meeting, I'm not cutting anybody off, but I just want to be fair to all involved. So I see, it would help me if everybody who wants to speak would raise their hand, and then I could just get an idea of how many people. I see one right now. If that's it, I will welcome Justin. I don't want to mess up anybody's last name, so I'll welcome Justin to unmute yourself if you're able to. And state your name and address for the record, and you have up to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hey, Justin Ko. Let me see if the video works here. Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear and see you.
All right,
Thank
great. Justin Ko, 18 Glenwood. I spoke at the last public hearing. So definitely appreciate some of the changes you guys made around the parking. I don't believe you really solved the issue, though, because I noticed that 2 of the spots are tandem spots. And so,
So some feedback from people joining the meeting. Go ahead, we hear you.
Yeah. So I don't believe you really solved the issue with the 2 tandem spots, because you're not really having a parking spot per unit. The only way I see that working is if you're giving 2 parking spots to a single unit. And like I said last time, there's just no way that you could live in this part of town without a car. One of the things that we asked for folks to look at is to get the egress out to Main Street rather than Glenwood. I like that very front, that traffic there is going to cause all sorts of issues. And one of the comments that was just made was around putting parking at the very front of the building. That left turn out of Glenwood and that right turn is really, really dangerous, the way that the curb shifts of the road. And if you put cars there, there's going to be a high chance of accident coming in and out of that road. One of the requests that we made from the neighborhood was for a traffic study to be done. if you guys did a traffic study in that area, you would just see the kind of traffic that would issues that would cause, and you know, it's not a putting more cars there is the primary concern of the neighborhood, and I just really want to make sure that that is stressed.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your feedback. And thank you. Uh, Seeing no other hands raised, we'll end public comment and move on to board discussion and questions. So I open it up to any member of the board who has any questions or comments toward Bridget or I see gone. Sid, there he is. I couldn't see him anymore. Go ahead.
Have you guys gone over the I guess the design? I just joined the meeting, and I was wondering if there'd been any discussion about the design before I arrived here.
Can
There's been a little bit, but it would be very helpful since you're now here. It would be helpful if Bridget, if you could go back over some of those so that Nick can see it and understand what you're proposing that's slightly augmented. That would be very helpful. And you can feel free to share again.
Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen again, and I'm going right to the renderings, trying to make that a little smaller that it all fits in here. So we did revise the facade a little bit, but not too much, as we are waiting for the design review
Okay. All right.
committee also making comments. What we did change is that we opened up the front more towards the sidewalk, added kind of Juliet balconies where people have the opportunity planting some herbs or something like that. Not a huge balcony, but at least connecting to the street, which helps the facade a lot, I think. But everything else is still in flux depending on how the floor plans are gonna be worked out, and then again, what the design review committee has to say.
Okay. Yeah. I guess we're kind of waiting on that, aren't we? I guess I got some feedback from some of the community that didn't like the design at all. They asked me if there was even an architect involved. And I mean, there seem to be no changes. And I guess my question is, what are we, I guess we're waiting for design review committee. I mean, there's nothing different about the windows at all. No sills or above and below. It still looks like the same kind of
If I can
halfway
address,
there building.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this is still very schematic. This is not a rendering which shows the final. It shows the massing. It's a massing model, which does not dive into any details.
Okay. Okay. I guess I'm just confused on the timeline.
So Nick, so far they're not sure how much of it needs to be commercial, but how much of it needs to be parking and all of those things. So this is sort of like, we'd like it to be this big and this close to the sidewalk, but they're
Okay.
not to details yet at all.
All right. Fair enough.
They're good points though, Nick.
But there was, yeah, I just was having some conversations this afternoon, and so that makes sense that we're not really focusing on that right now.
Yeah, and just to kind of chip in, I mean, like from the last meeting and even this meeting, we are very open to whatever the community or the board talks about it. And, like when we go into detail further on the exterior with you guys or with design committee, the window sills above, wherever, and then also I know the windows looks very like a modern and blank, like
Yeah, they look very modern.
no
The whole thing looks
grids in
modern.
there. I mean, I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
We could incorporate those in there, as well.
Mhm. Yeah. Great. That sounds great. Thank you, Sid.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from the board?
Jack, do you want to go before me?
Just a couple of
I'll go
questions.
last because I have questions and comments, but I'll let you guys all go first.
Just a couple questions. I know that both last meeting and then again tonight, neighbors have mentioned the desire to put the driveway down the right side of the building. And I see that as it presently exists, on that side of the building, you have a window well, and you also have 10 feet 3 inches clearance. I don't know, Taylor or Ian might know, but under the bylaws, what kind of width of driveway would be required should that be possible?
The biggest thing to know, I mean, no, that's not enough. It's not enough space because you need enough space, one, for access in both directions and for access for emergency services. 16 feet is probably the maximum, probably the minimum required. Here in the rear, they have 19.9, 20 feet. That's probably more of what we would. So the answer would be no. There's not sufficient space there without major revisions to the design.
Yeah,
Also keep in mind that in both the bylaw and the design guidelines for the MSMD, the driveways on corner lots, access by Main Street isn't prohibited, but it is not. It is encouraged to have the access on the side streets.
Yes.
That is written into the bylaw.
That's right. I understand that. So that probably is not feasible. I mean, even if you could shift the building far enough, you've got 10 feet. You got essentially the same distance on the other side. If you shifted the building 5 or 6 feet to the left, it's still not enough. I understand what you're saying. Second question, just as a terms of function, am I seeing two stairways going up to the building from the garage level?
Yes,
And
because
go ahead.
I'm sorry. If you want to finish your question.
No, go ahead.
So yeah, there are two stairs going up because there's a fire separation wall between the two buildings. So if you go to that one, it's better visible. These are stairs going up to the first floor. And then from the first floor, there are, I'm going to zoom in to show the first floor here. So there's a fire separation between
Yeah,
between the units. If we wouldn't do that, the building would need to be sprinklered.
I see that. Okay, thank you. And back to the basement, if you would.
Mhm.
If I'm reading this right, so the 5 cars on either side, you can walk from the car, which I think you designated as space number 9 and number 10 on the tandem slots. You can literally walk from that space to the stairways without going outside. Is that correct?
Correct, or to the elevator. Yes.
Right,
So
okay.
this is the elevator here. Yes.
So those aren't walled off garage slots for each car.
No.
Okay.
No, they are not walled off.
That's all I had for the moment. I have some other thoughts, but that was just kind of extraneous information I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry, do you have questions? You want to go first?
I didn't hear much that was particularly compelling in terms of why we would grant leniency on the commercial space based on evidence from other towns and from large office spaces. This is as far as the organization of North Main, this is in the West 4 district, I believe. And it's meant to be a gateway, and it's tucked in with a fairly tight neighborhood. So the closest I would think we would get to would be granting leniency on the percent of commercial space. But I think the reason you're seeing all of those huge office buildings becoming vacant is because people have started working from home. And I think that's been a very strong trend in Winchester. And I think while we're seeing large retailers and anchor stores go through some very difficult times, I think we're seeing our town has done fairly well in certain sectors. I think your small retail establishments and the food places that we've brought into town have done well. We have an economic development study that we need to dive into, and we need to think more about how to recruit and maintain local businesses, but I don't think that I'm discouraged by Haverhill data on how a commercial space would do in Winchester. And it's adjacent to a child care center, so there's foot traffic, there's a tight neighborhood there, in terms of, we've seen close residents, we saw them come out as a group to this. And the goal of North Main Street is to create places for people to congregate. So I could imagine maybe we go to 50% commercial on the first floor, but I will fight losing all opportunity to engage the public with the building facades uh, pretty tooth and nail. I really think this is a nice location for some involved engagement with the public realm. Other than the parking in the street are going to be difficult, and I think that is something that I think I personally need a better idea of what we're going to be able to offer in terms of the street parking, because we stood there and we can see if you park cars up to the stop sign or even the normal distance from the stop sign, it will be a very difficult turn, and we want all the kids that live there to be safe. So definitely some difficult issues to solve with parking. I appreciate that you added the affordable unit, and I'm not hearing anything compelling for granting leniency on the affordable housing requirement. I think those are my comments for now.
Thank you. I have two questions slash comments. The first, I think, is probably obvious, but if you could go to the second floor view of this, that one right there, and if you could zoom in on the second floor, I realize you're early in the process, but it looks like Unit 5B is a combination of what would have been Unit 4B and 5B, and now it's become one big unit. I presume that you just didn't flesh it out, but that unit will not have two kitchens. It will not be, it'll just be one big large unit. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We did not make the changes in the floor plan. We just made the green block diagrammatic to calculate the floor area and to say we are going to have just one entrance from here, from the hallway, and then all of that will be a 3-bedroom unit, probably 3 or 4 3-bedroom unit, I assume.
Perfect.
So
I just wanted to make
3 or
sure.
4. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure it wasn't two
No, it's
kitchen
a
units.
good observation. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then I guess a statement, or I don't know if it's really a question, following on to what Carrie just said, as far as the lack of ground floor commercial. I agree that it's troubling. I don't see a lot of reasons why we would allow there to be no ground floor commercial. Put it this way, I'm not sure if anything's been put forward to alleviate that. The thing that comes to mind when I think about it is I say, well, if you're going to take out the ground floor commercial, what is there to make this a better project? And the first thing that comes to mind is an additional affordable unit, for example. So I come to thinking of something like that, where while I would prefer ground floor commercial, if you came back to us and said, we just can't make ground floor commercial work, but we would add an extra affordable unit, it would be something that would certainly, I would be more amenable than just saying we can't make ground floor commercial work, so we're not going to have it. So I throw that out there. It's not really a question. It's more of just a statement of where I'm thinking right now as I see these changes. And I do see the additional parking. Well, tandem is not ideal. I see it as an improvement because we have more parking offsite, and in the wintertime, no cars can be on the street. So everyone who has a car must have them off street. So I see that as an improvement. So I just throw that out there as some of my thoughts.
Thank you for your comments. Sid, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, well, I just want to address first the Carrie and the neighbors, right? So one of the concern, I know, with the one you show on the street, the 5 street parking, Those are the parking which she just kind of mentioned that we have created out of it when the sidewalks are going to be. And then that's something can be worked on. Like I know the concern is that if the fifth car is right where the street entrance and exit is, that's going to be hazard. We could work with town to not have the fifth one over there, and we just do maybe four, on the street. Yeah, this one, the fifth one, right close to it. So we could omit that. So that can be obviously um, definitely work on it. And then, um, you know, I was also thinking, I've been to, like we go to Marblehead on all those tight little small streets and whatnot. When they come out, there are these mirrors which are installed, which if you're coming out of the Glenwood, right now there is none, so again, I'm not saying, but this is something we could kind of propose. So that would be beneficial to like everybody on the Glenwood Avenue, that if they are coming out and we can figure out which is the which area or which on our property or where we could install something like that. So that will help the existing and any future issues coming in and out, especially coming out. I think that's the problem. So that's what I was thinking about it. That could be the thing. And then um I mean, you know like I said, Brian, this was a great suggestion. We have to think a little bit more hard on the number side too, that if we have to give, so it's basically doing the all project at the end of the day, whether the number makes sense or not. So if you do, it's all the sellable square foot, that's what it is. But I mean, we always are very open to suggestions. So let me go back to my team, kind of see that, hey, can we do at least two small affordable units, one
And
bedroom
to be
unit?
perfectly clear, I will not vote for that because that is still walking past a building with closed residential windows. And our goal for North Main Street is to have transparency on the first floor and engagement across that front wall. So that might help Brian, but that's not a slam dunk for the committee, for the board.
No, no.
Understood.
Obviously, I will just reiterate what Carrie said. We're all giving you our ideas, and this is
Sure.
we're going to have a discussion. Please don't take anything I say or Carrie says or any of us as being what the decision of the board will be.
Of course.
But
Of
I'm
course.
trying to give some ideas.
Yeah. I mean, that's the goal over here, right? I mean, kind of see where we are, where you guys' thought points are, and how we can work this through. So we'll go back to the drawing board, um, you know, and then see from all the comments which are being done today, how we can improve this further.
Thank you, Jack. I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I just want to elaborate on what Carrie said because I'm in agreement with her, and I think that Carrie's too modest to take credit for pushing this bylaw through. She was really the champion, both in writing it and pushing it through town meeting, and it was a long discussion, and town meeting ultimately supported it. But I want to read from the bylaw itself, if you'll be patient with me, and I won't read a lot. Right up front, and the purpose of the bylaw was laid out in 3 sentences, and I want to read the last 2 sentences. The purpose of the bylaw: the district is designed to promote a walkable, livable, and climate resilient environment, serving as both an entry point to Winchester and a seamless transition into the center business district. By integrating commercial, residential, and community spaces, the MSMD fosters a dynamic, pedestrian, and bicycle-friendly neighborhood that complements the surrounding residential areas and allows for the intensification of mixed-use development as it approaches the center business district. Right after that, we list several goals of the bylaw. Number one goal is to promote mixed-use development, quote, with active ground floor commercial uses to enhance the streetscape and support a vibrant, community-centered environment, end of quote, which is pretty much what Carrie just said, and I'm in agreement with that.
Thank you, Jack. I should just clarify what I was saying, which was that if there's not going to be ground floor commercial, I wanted to understand what incentives there were. An incentive I would consider would be an affordable unit. I clearly don't have agreement with the board, but it's something I think certainly, as with all ideas, it should be considered. And it may not be financially viable for the developers anyway. So I just threw that out there as an idea.
Fair enough.
Do we have additional questions or comments from the board about where we are right now? If not, I'm going to ask Taylor if you could help us sort of walk through what our next steps are as far as where we are right now. And we will no doubt continue this to our July 8th meeting. And I just was hoping you could help us know what to expect as we move forward.
Yeah, so I think we had a pretty productive conversation. What I really wanted to make sure is that we gave enough information to the applicant that they have the ability to go back to the drawing board and say, this is the things that we know the board likes. These are the things that we know the board doesn't like. I'm certainly gonna, hop on a call or sit down with the applicant again to make sure that the message is heard loud and clear on everything that we talked about. On July 8th, as long as it works for everyone, the plan would be to start the site plan review process. That will start with number one would be the planning board deciding, making a decision if they would approve, if they will approve waiving the mixed use special permit. So because that to me is the number that means a lot about the design, about everything else. So we need to let the applicant know that right away. So we'll be making a decision on the all residential use on July 8th, and then we will also, if we have time, be diving into the traffic management and parking plan for the project as well. The third thing will be site design. I don't know if we can get into that. That might be a little ambitious, but those will be the two things that we'll tackle on July 8th if we can. If the applicant wants to wait until our next meeting, which would be
July
29th,
I think
that's an option as well. I will say that the July 8th meeting is in person, and I think I like conversations in person, but that's up to if the applicant isn't ready for then, that is okay.
absolutely.
Can I?
Thank you. Absolutely, Bridget. Taylor, you're complete, right? You're done.
Yep.
Okay,
And I can answer any questions if the applicant has any.
Perfect. I'll turn it over to you, Bridget, and then I'll see if anybody has any questions for either you or Taylor before we continue the public hearing.
Thank you. It's about the submittal timeline because July, as we would love to move it forward for July 8th, but the question is, the submittal deadline is, when is that?
So for the all residential, for the purposes of the conversation, I'm not sure how much additional submission material that you'll need. I mean, I assume by July 8th, you're going to continue with your ask for all residential building, right? So you won't need anything additional there. And based off of, a it's for traffic management and parking, it's essentially the beginning of that. I don't expect you to go hire a surveyor or an engineer at this point. It's just explaining your parking ratio, and we can start diving into some of those specific asks of the Glenwood residents and how we're going to interface the building with the public realm.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So with that, do any board members have questions? We're going to continue this meeting to July 8th, but I want to make sure if anybody has questions on process of Taylor or of the project of Bridget, that you ask them now while we're still meeting. I don't see any. So with that,
Brian, if you don't mind, I will also just add that design review is actually, the applicant doesn't know this yet. The design review just told me today that they're going to be meeting on July 9th. And historical is meeting on July 2nd. Now they don't have to, the historical review. I'm gonna have to work with historical and the applicant to understand what historical review is for this. But the big one is design review on the 9th. So the board can review the results of the design review at their 26 meeting, 29 meeting,
29th, we believe the 29th.
29 meeting.
I'll double check my calendar because we keep on saying that. And I want to be totally. It is July 29th. Yes.
Yes.
7 p.m. and we have it scheduled for remote. We can certainly talk about whether members are all local, in which case we could do it in person. But we scheduled it as remote originally.
Yeah, so that's when we can start diving more into design.
Okay. Okay. With that, I'd like to thank Bridget. Thanks, Sid. I would welcome a motion to continue the public hearing to July 29th.
So moved.
Second.
And we'll take a roll call vote for that.
It's July 8th, Brian.
July 8th. Thank you. Is that moved?
Yes,
Yeah.
moved.
And
Seconded.
thank you. Roll call, Nick,
Aye.
Jack,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
and I am a yes as well. So again, thank you very much. We look forward to meeting you next time in person, and again in person. And with that, we will move on to the business agenda that we have beyond the public hearing.
Thanks. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.
Night.
Do we need to open our meeting, or we already opened it by being in the public hearing?
You have to reopen it.
We do? Okay, so I'd like
Yeah.
to open the meeting of June 17th. I'd like a motion to open the meeting. I forget how we do roll call vote. Sorry, I'm
Roll call
losing my
vote,
mind.
yeah.
Roll call vote. Carrie,
Present.
Nick,
Present.
Jack,
Present.
John,
Present.
and I am present as well. Taylor, if you could put up the agenda, if you're able to do that, I can just walk people through the agenda. We open with board and staff updates. We have some minutes to approve. As far as development review, we have an A&R.
Sorry, the agenda's not. I can't share my screen.
That's
Sorry.
I'll just talk through it. We have an A&R which is going to be postponed. We have additional business. We have a Rangeley Park Heritage District appointment. We have a discussion about the ADU bylaw determination by the Attorney General. A brief additional discussion about the Ardley Road roadway improvement plan, and then discussion about the fiscal year 26 priorities. So with that, we will go directly into board and staff updates. I have two board updates that I'd like to share, and then I'll let other people know if they have any. The first would be, yet again, we've made progress on the economic feasibility analysis that will help us have increased the affordable housing in the MBT 3A district, or MOD, to match what we have in the Central Business District and in North Main Street. We communicated with the EOHLC, and they agreed that the EFA was sufficient, and that if we were to pass the revisions at town meeting, we would remain in compliance as soon as it passed. So we wouldn't fall out of compliance. So that's good news. The second part of that is I reached out to town council to review a proposed bylaw change, and they said that would be amenable to town council and pass all of what they have. So this will be a topic coming to us soon for public hearing to discuss and decide if we want to put it forward at fall town meeting. And we are way early, but I'd rather be way early than doing it late. So that's the first update. And the second update I have is that we will be doing Taylor's performance evaluation at the end of July, anticipating July 29th. In the interim, we will, at our next meeting, have a brief discussion about how that's going to take place. So again, this is not a time for discussing that. So just have it on your calendar that we will be discussing this, and I will be looking for feedback from people prior to the meeting of the 29th. So we'll talk a little bit about process the next meeting, but those are my two updates. Do other members of the board have updates that they would like to give?
State of the town marches on. I feel like it's a lot of work and it's a lot of activity. The planning board again is not sort of squarely in the middle of it yet, but I am amassing materials and I would appreciate feedback on how to get feedback from everybody so we know I'm representing us well. And I don't know if we should wait until we get to FY26 priority setting, or I think I would appreciate feedback on how to make sure I'm not just sort of mavericking here. Our next meeting as a state of the town group is a week from Friday, and then we don't meet until July 9th. And it's we're on 4 different work streams out of 6. So our voice is going to be heard across work streams, but of course schools dominate the town budget, frankly. So I want us to be proactive and ahead of things. I've been working a lot today on putting together an awkward merger of the state of the town goals, the master plan priorities, and the economic development plan draft, and trying to distill that down to sort of tasks that the planning board would accomplish and asks that we want to make sure we get out of the state of the town. So if anyone has an idea of how best to make sure all voices are represented and it's not just me, I am open to that.
Do you think it would be worthwhile, because this is just sort of an update, having this as an agenda topic at a future meeting for us to actually, maybe at our next meeting to actually sit around and as opposed to just being an update, to actually, dive into it? I don't know if that would be helpful.
I think that would be helpful. I think as long as I have your blessing, so that would definitely be helpful. Let's definitely make sure we talk about it. I think by the time we get to our next meeting, the individual work streams will probably have gotten a little meatier. Right now it's a lot of doodle polls, to be honest. And so I'll probably have meatier feedback to give and to get. And meanwhile, maybe what I'll do is take this list that I'm putting together and share it with the group, so that people can raise alarms if they need to. And I can send a list of material. We're not uploading much. I'll upload our new fee schedule. I'm not sure how far into the weeds to go with this right now, but I can sort of keep you aware of what we're adding to the box, which is the repository of materials that the state of the town will be discussing. And then we can make it an agenda item, and I'll give you a more detailed overview than I have in the past of who we are in the work streams and how I think we'll be oriented throughout the process. So far, they're all very excited about what our commercial development opportunities are. And I don't know where they're picturing our borders to be, but
Would it be helpful for us to attend any of these meetings just to get a flavor?
The Friday meetings are select board meetings on WinCam. So I think you can probably access past ones.
Okay.
I was teased a little bit in the last one. You might enjoy that one. I kept calling me, and it was a mixed result. But it's not going very fast yet. So there are some good ideas on the table, but nothing's necessarily planning board related yet. So it might help you get oriented.
Yeah, good. I think I might do that.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I didn't realize they were being recorded. So
the working groups are not. The Friday meetings are select board assembled. Yep, they're. I think they're recorded. They're definitely on WinCam.
We will, if they're on WinCam, they're recorded.
Oh, wait, are they? I can't picture if WinCam. Do you know?
We can find that out.
Okay.
And I would say that anything you wanted to share with the committee, you could send to Taylor or Ian, and they could send out to us, and that would keep it clean, the process of how that went about. And we'll add it to our agenda as something to discuss at our next meeting.
Okay.
And we'll be sitting around a table too. It might be a little easier than sitting here on Zoom to actually have that conversation.
Yeah.
Apropos to that, I think we should decide if we want our July 29th, apropos to that, to be remote or in person, if some of these things might be more useful. But we don't need to decide that now. I think it's something just worth thinking about.
There is a chance I'll miss that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll keep it remote, because if there's a chance you miss it, but there's a chance you can dial in, that's better than no chance of you at all being able to attend. So
if I miss it, there's no way I will be able to dial in. We'll be like wrestling bears in Maine.
Wow.
I hope you win, not the bear.
We just drive until the cell phones don't work, and then we hang out.
When is the next meeting? The July 8th?
July 8th, yeah.
Okay.
No, we were just talking about the advantage of being in person. So
Right.
But so do others have updates? Are there others on the board who have updates they wanted to share?
Not I.
No, it looks like not. So I'll pass it over to you, Taylor, if you have any updates that you think are appropriate at this point in the meeting.
My only one is I have ordered physical copies of the newly completed economic development plan for everyone. Those should be in next week. So you can either come pick them up, or I can just bring them to the meeting on the 8th.
Perfect. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, tell us when they're ready. I'll probably come get one because it'll be helpful for all of us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I may too. And I'll be flying again next week, so maybe give me something to read on the plane.
You're always flying.
Better les menage.
So with that, if I have our agenda correct, we move on to approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes from May 5th and May 20th. They were sent out, I can't remember, Friday maybe, and I think there was a small correction. I know I made a small correction. Ian, I don't know if others made any small corrections as well.
Yeah, I did too.
I don't know if everybody feels comfortable, then we don't need to look at them. We can just vote to approve them. And I would welcome a motion to do so. And if anybody wants to actually go through them, I would welcome that too. But I prefer to just vote them if everybody's okay with
I would move that we approve both the May 8th and the May 20th minutes.
I have May 5th, Jack.
I'm sorry, May 5th.
Okay. I second that.
Any additional discussion? Roll call vote. John?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you so much, Cheryl and Ian, for getting those all to work perfectly. I really appreciate it. And with that, we will move into the next agenda item, which is a development review. Under development review, it's an A&R 25-3 for 233, 237 High Street. And Taylor, I believe you have an update, which I alluded to at the beginning, but I will pass it off to you to tell us what that update is.
The A&R for 233, 237 High Street has been withdrawn. It's not deja vu. This is the second time that they have withdrawn their application. And they will be submitting a request that the board allow the withdrawal be without prejudice. And we can vote on that on the 8th.
Okay, so we don't even need to do anything about it right now.
No.
Okay.
Unless you want to vote before they send the letter. I mean, you could do that if you'd like.
Someone would make
Saves
a
us
motion
time on the 8th.
I would. Maybe we should wait until they formally do that, though. What I want to make sure we don't have happen is that somehow, because it's still sitting here and that we haven't got the formal request to withdraw it, that then it becomes approved because we didn't do something in a timely fashion.
Yeah, you only have 21 days to act on it, and it was submitted on the 12th. So you have until the 3rd. The only the only thing is that I can mark it as not accepted. But the easiest thing to do is that protects the board the most is just by accepting their withdrawal, even though it wasn't formally.
I would welcome a motion to accept their withdrawal without prejudice for A&R 25-3.
I move to accept their withdrawal without prejudice for A&R 25-3.
Is there a second on that?
I second that.
Any discussion about that? I'm going to turn back over and just ask you again, Taylor. This is the cleanest way to do this, do you believe?
I believe so. There's
Okay.
no adverse repercussions to making the motion, but what I can do is make sure that it sticks without the formal letter. So that's the only thing that I need to make sure about.
Okay.
But there's nothing nothing wrong with at least trying with this
If we
motion.
amend the motion to be pending receipt of the letter?
Well,
No?
then we're still in the,
I don't- I-
letter doesn't come, then
Right.
if we don't get the letter, we might have to have a 5-minute meeting between now and the 3rd. I mean, if it blows up somehow, we might have to have a 5-minute Zoom meeting scheduled to deal with this. Presumably, Taylor will get a letter in the next 48 hours, and this will all be clean. But if it's
Okay.
not, we'll just keep our eyes on that so that it doesn't happen.
Okay.
Taylor, is this
Okay,
likely to
this
come
is
back?
actually really funny. I have a letter in my inbox from them that has come, but since the last time I looked at my mail, so
Oh.
I do have it. It's right.
Is
I
this
can share
likely
it
to
with
come
you if you
back, or is this definitely dead?
It's now a escalated neighborly dispute. So
Oh.
I would say dead for the moment. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second to what was the exact language that we used? It was to accept their withdrawal without prejudice.
Yes.
Roll call vote. Jack,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. So I honestly think that took longer to do that than it would have taken to approve the A&R and discuss it and approve it. But that's out of the way now.
I walked by there today, and there's a magnificent dogwood tree that sits right on the property line, right up front. It's a beautiful tree.
Hmm.
I hope that that's not in danger.
Hopefully that has nothing to do with this and is just an innocent bystander who will continue to stand.
Yes.
So with that, we will move on to additional business. The first item there is the Rangeley Park Heritage District appointment. I know we are all in receipt of an email from, just want to pull it up because how do I have this many emails? I cannot find it quickly.
It's let's see. Margaret Mack,
Margaret Mack, thank you.
14 Rangeley Road.
Thank you. I should have written that down. I thought I'd just grab the email. So we are responsible for appointing members to the Rangeley Park Heritage District. She has served for 3 years. She is seeking a reappointment. Unless and no one else is seeking that reappointment, I believe. Is that correct, Taylor?
That's correct.
Okay. So unless anyone has any reason to discuss it further, or has any reason to not want to do so, I would welcome a motion to reappoint Margaret Mack for a 3-year term to the Rangeley Park Heritage District.
I will make that motion.
I will second that motion.
Okay, and I assume there's no more discussion, I hope. So roll call vote, Carrie,
Aye.
Jack,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. The vote is unanimous. Thank you, wherever you are, for stepping up again. We really appreciate it. With that, we will move on to the next additional business item, which is Attorney General 3.2.2 accessory dwelling unit ADU bylaw determination. This is the decision that we received from the Attorney General on our revised bylaw for the ADUs. And I'm going to turn this over completely to Taylor. There's a lot of legalese and stuff in this letter, and he understands it way better than I do. So I will let him explain what has been decided, and we can talk about our paths forward.
So after 2 long delays by the AG's office, she has issued her determination on the ADU bylaw, which was passed in the fall, 3.2.2. There are 2 sections of it. There's two determinations. One is everything in the bylaw is good, but there's 2 sections which are the but. The first is in, I'm doing this out of memory. I really should pull this up. The first is,
Ian, do you want to pull? I don't know which one of you is controlling. You want to pull up the letter, and we can have it on the screen.
so the text in section 3.2.2 purpose section. So in the purpose that requires a special permit for ADUs that are a part of a duplex. It's my opinion that this is us poorly writing our intent of the purpose. What the AG is saying is that properties with duplexes, if zoned single family, need to have ADUs allowed by right. And I think we all understand that that is the case. A big part of it is anything that's zoned single family, regardless of the structure, the type of structure or use that is on it, it is allowed to be, an ADU isn't allowed by right. It's my recollection that it was our intent to actually go one step further than what was being proposed, and to allow ADUs to be proposed by special permit on for zoning that was for 2 family.
Yeah.
So I believe that we just need to kind of take a step back and rewrite what our real purpose was. So I actually don't take that first bullet point there of text in section 3.2.2 that requires a special permit for ADUs to be a part of a duplex. I think that our intent was correct. We just didn't write it correctly. So we'll address that. Now, the second one is a little more complicated. Special permit requirement for ADUs proposed as part of a pre-existing non-conforming primary residence. So we talked about this at length. Is an ADU allowed by right on a property that has a pre-existing non-conformity? And what the AG has determined is that even if there's a pre-existing nonconformity, a ADU can be constructed by right. So there's a lot of questions here because that is very different than any building permitting anywhere else, right? You can't extend an existing nonconformity as Jack now knows, without special permit for anything. So it's rather interesting that the determination is that if that if the extension of an existing nonconformity be an ADU, it be allowed. Now, of course, you can't create a nonconformity. That would be a variance, and that doesn't apply to this. But I think that there are a lot of questions about what does this mean, and I think we need to think about it more. I think that we need to consult with uh, with town council and maybe some others about what happens here. Um, because I think that it creates a situation that makes controlling, and I'm not saying controlling in a bad way, like we're not trying to prohibit the construction of ADUs, but to control the type of structure that is on existing non-conforming property, um, is something that we should be doing, but the fact that we can't is just a little odd. Um, so everything else in the article besides those two things are okay. Now I'll just add one last thing and then you can ask questions or we can move on. Um, as it stands, what do we know now? So we know that we know that these two things, these two things aren't essentially aren't allowed. So the rest of our article is still enforceable. In fact, our whole bylaw is enforceable. But we're going to fall back on the state model bylaw for these two sections. So for in the interim, until we go back to town meeting and rectify or amend our bylaw, we're going to run off of our new bylaw with the fallback of these two sections in the model bylaw from the state. Fortunately, it's really just two things, so it's not that confusing. And we can go into what does this mean next. It's going to be my recommendation that we don't actually rush to this fall town meeting to make to make updates. I actually wouldn't even recommend making updates for spring. I would say that we wait a full year and have this conversation again around this time next year to see, one, how does any of this play out? Two, the state is still figuring out what their rules are on this, so we might learn more from other communities on what's going to happen. And three, it kind of gives us time to really more carefully consider what does work and what doesn't work for our unique circumstances. I don't see any significant issues with keeping our own bylaw as it's currently written. So that would be my recommendation.
Thank you. That's super helpful. And quick follow-up before I open up for questions. There was a third issue that's not specifically in our bylaw, which was the calculation of floor area, and how that's calculated for ADUs versus how it's calculated in our bylaw in general. So that doesn't impact this, but that's a third thing that I assume that when somebody goes to build an ADU, they will fall back on the state's calculation, how they calculate floor area as opposed to how we calculate floor areas for other things. So there's sort of those three things. Would that be accurate? Those three things, those two plus that?
Yes, that's correct. And we have questions about what will ADUs actually start to be like. Just for, I don't know if I shared this with everyone, just for reference, we have 6 total ADUs permitted, not all constructed. We have 6 ADUs permitted, but we have 0 have been permitted since the passing of this bylaw. So we haven't seen, we were wondering if we would see kind of a mad rush to permit these. We've had 2 people show interest, or 2 people show interest in permitting, but we haven't seen any permits go through yet. So we still have a lot to learn about what these will actually look like. For example, if a basement is a certain height and an attic is a certain height, we don't, in our bylaws, we don't consider that usable square footage. So, if you have a 6 foot or a 6-7 basement, and I don't want to go too far into it, but there are a lot of other dimensional stuff in our bylaws that do have different consequences when they're considered on an ADU.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if it's
That's all. John, go ahead.
no, that it just that, in general, if it's a basement, the question is it a story or not? And our bylaw deals with that. If it's, you usually, if it's not a story, we don't count it to FAR. You know, in the attic area or the above the basement, we absolutely look at ceiling height to calculate FAR. That's pretty typical through the Commonwealth, that approach of fundamentally. But are they saying the state wants to do something different for ADUs? Have a
The city's
calculation?
saying they want us to measure the floor area by the interior instead of the exterior, which we currently do. But we're one, I don't want to say worry about where we have our eye out for ADUs, which reach the maximum floor area allowed of 900 square feet, but then put it for detached and then have a basement, which doesn't count towards floor area because it's 51% below grade. And so that's another 450 square feet or 100 or, over X amount of square feet. And then a you know, semi-usable attic. So we're wondering a 900 square foot ADU now can turn into what based off of some of our other dimensional guidelines.
I didn't mean to derail this. All I was adding is that this was the Attorney General's decision on Article 8, our ADU bylaw. I was just adding that there are additional things that we might need to when we do circle back to address these at some point, if the committee agrees with that we should wait a little time. We might want to circle back on that issue as well to address it, unless we decide to tackle that sooner. That's sort of the floor area. Any other questions regarding this? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much, Taylor, for interpreting this long document. I would have had to scan it and put it into AI. The next item on our agenda is to discuss where we are as far as the roadway improvement plan for Ardley Road. By way of some background, I'll let Taylor really sort of dig into this, but there was a meeting of the Conservation Committee last week, and I know everybody on the committee was made aware of that meeting, so I was the only member of the board in attendance. And at that time, the Conservation Commission had a public hearing to discuss moving forward with that as far as distances to I'm not on the Concom, so I don't want to speak for them, but as far as distances to watershed areas and things like that, and decide how they want to move forward. They continued their public hearing to the 8th of July, which is the same day as our meeting. So I'm in the process of seeing if we can have a public hearing, a joint public hearing with them, so we can go over at the same time. But that's by way of that meeting but I probably should have had Taylor sort of kick off beforehand as far as what's concerned, since we haven't really seen this since December when we last saw this.
Didn't the planning board deny this at some point, and it seems to keep coming back? And it's sort of becoming a problem at this point. You're on mute. Jack, you're on mute.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, you're right, Nick. In fact, the historical commission got involved in this too, because the property, the house is an historic house, and the property owner, without getting approval from any town official or board, started taking down trees in that area, and the intention of creating a building lot and a road. And it was brought to the town's attention by a neighbor, and they ceased and desist him. And it got kind of ugly at some points. And so retroactively, they started applying for things, and they were turned down by the historical commission. I don't remember all the details, but they were turned down by the historical commission and the planning board. So I guess they're coming again for hat in hand. I'm not sure. I don't know in much more details than what you just told us.
Yeah, they're just using a different avenue. Um, they're using a roadway improvement plan instead of going through subdivision or any of the other permitting options. It's just a yes, Nick. They have been turned down in using some other methods. A roadway improvement plan is very actually we don't even have a method for it to be denied. Like just like an A&R, if they comply with all of the regulations of constructing a road, they get to construct a road. Now, we can't go into too much detail about this particular project because it does have to be in public hearing, but we can certainly talk about our process um, of what is happening. So there is kind of two things happening in parallel. There's Concom, which is reviewing um, drainage and the road's encroachment on the wetlands, which is in the back of the property. Um, and then the planning board's responsibility is the final approval, much like you would approve a subdivision and the final approval of the road, saying that that all necessary requirements have been met. One thing to know about a road is that you're not approving lots, you're not approving buildings, you're not approving anything else except for the actual construction of a road. Now we can go into the theory, we can theorize what is the applicant's ultimate goal with building a road. I think we can all come up with some theories of why they would do that, but what we have in front of us now is just the approval of a road. So Concom will make a determination, and the planning board will make their determination in parallel. It has been specifically requested that that Concom and planning board meet together to make their final decisions in a single meeting instead of in separate meetings. We made that agreement with the applicant in December, so we should work to stick to that agreement. And we'll also be hiring a peer reviewer to help both Concom and the planning board out with more of the technical details. So that peer reviewer will review drainage. They'll provide drainage reports. They'll provide stormwater reports. They'll provide roadway design reports, hopefully providing the board enough information to understand if they should approve it or not.
This is from our budget?
No, the applicant pays for it.
Do we get I know you've had an interest in developing like a formal roadway improvement plan for us. Does this help that at all? For you?
It would help it if it was done. Yep. So the goal is to make sure that the next time it happens is that we have those plans. This would have proceeded anyway because it started in December. You can't retroactively apply new regulations onto a project that's already been
Right.
started, but
But if
yes.
it can inform us on the next one, that's great.
Just
Great.
point of information, I don't know if this has been clear, but if you know Ardley Road at all, this property sits on the road, but the extended where they want to put the road goes down a pretty steep hill. Their lot goes way back to the cemetery. They back up to the cemetery, so this road would be pretty steep, as I recall. Just point of information.
So as far as a pathway forward, I reached out to Conservation Commission Chair and asked if they would be amenable to having, because they already have their public hearing continued to July 8th, which is the same day as we have our meeting. If I hear back from them in time to go ahead with having that become a joint public hearing, we can be in the same room at the same time. And potentially when we request a peer review, it might cover what we want and what they want, as opposed to having two separate sets of them to cover things that might even overlap. So I think there'd be advantages to that if we can make that work. But we do have sort of a deadline as far as posting that by the end of this week. So I will hopefully hear back on that. If not, then we will not probably discuss this on July 8th because the applicant can't be in two rooms at one place at one time. So we would probably not discuss this until our 29th meeting. But there certainly is advantage to moving forward together again, so that we can, in the meeting that I was in, they had a lot of questions for the directions that what we were going to approve, because they're going to get their peer review and they'd like it to sort of align with what our direction is at the same time. So in case they get a review for drainage and then we say, well, actually the road has to be here, it wouldn't be as helpful as having us all in the same room and saying, okay, this is where the road would go, things like that. I'm not trying to get into any detail. So hopefully that works out, but I don't know yet. So more to come. Okay. With that, move on to the next agenda item, which is our fiscal year 26 priorities. This came out directly from our last meeting. And Ian, if you could put up, I believe it's the last page of the packet. I simply wrote down all the things that we all brought to the table as far as directions that we could go. And what I'm looking for is sort of either consensus from the board of which ones of these we want to do, or people who are willing to say, I will step up and I will start looking into this one or that one as far as moving it forward. I don't, this is me, I don't see these being something that we're talking about having a bylaw change at fall town meeting unless somebody digs into it and says, yeah, we need to change a couple of words, but it's not much. But there is not a lot of time between now and fall town meeting. So I just sort of put these all in one place so that we could discuss them and see if anybody's willing to be a champion for any of the things on here or something else that we didn't include somehow on here. I may not have adequately captured what everyone said, but so I would open it up if anybody says, hey, I'm really interested in starting to dig into this, and that they could dig into it and come back to the board at some point in the future. I think these are all things that, in my personal opinion, everything everybody brought up are things that we should be doing. There's just only 5 of us, so we can't do it all. So thoughts?
Yeah, I think that I think individually or with assistance from Taylor or other town staff, we could undertake as individuals, we could undertake some preliminary investigation to see if this is a fool's errand or if there's some real possibilities to make some progress on some of these areas. And to that end, I would certainly volunteer to investigate my own recommendation, which is to look for means of encouraging or encouraging the construction of passive housing. I'm not in favor of new regulations that would require it. I just think that there maybe I emphasis on the word maybe, there may be ways of encouraging it, and I would like to work with Ken Pruitt. He has a lot of ideas, and maybe we can have some time with Taylor and Ian to kick ideas around. And then my thought is that maybe later this summer we'd come back with something solid to look at.
I think that's great. Anyone who's willing to step up and take one of these and say, I want to dig into it a little bit more, I will not say no, because it's too much for us to look at all at the same time, or for anyone to look at all of them at the same time. So, and you had also, when you spoke at the last meeting, I think talked about not necessarily for you to take on too, but you were in the middle of looking at special permit review for a very small addition. And so that's another thing that we had talked about, was how to streamline that, if we can, for things like your very small addition.
Yeah,
So
that's yeah,
Yeah.
that I was talking off the top of my head from my own personal experience, but it seems to me that for projects that are so insignificant, do they really require to jump through all these hoops? But where do you draw that line? And I don't know where that is. I don't
I
know.
think you draw it at the line of the size of the select board's table. If it fits on the table, it gets a really slick, smooth process.
Streamlined process. That's a good
Right.
You
method.
can buy
Very
the
if it-
cardboard at
If
CVS.
it
with
fits
that.
on that table,
I
uh,
I think that's a great idea. We could
You know.
call it tabling it. If it doesn't fit on it, we have to table it.
Everyone gets up and we see if we can get it to fit on the table, you know.
I didn't share it with you when I made my
Maybe
own.
we could do it by how many planning board members would fit in it.
Yeah.
I didn't share it with you, but when I presented to Design Review Committee and Historical Commission, then finally ZBA last week, I actually had a piece of cardboard cut out with the exact dimensions of that offending piece, and it came to 4.8 square feet. And it was just held it up, and this is what you're approving tonight. I got laughs from all three boards.
Yeah.
Well played. So I'm thrilled with you. I mean, if the board is okay with that, thrilled with you sort of looking into passive housing and maybe ways to encourage it. Obviously, with us all coming back together, and you might say it's a fool's errand, but you might say, hey, there's actually something to this, and then we can start thinking about that.
Sure, I'll take both those on.
Thank you. Is anybody else willing to see anything on here that they're willing to sort of at least take a first stab at investigating?
Well, I'd like to look at the way we deal with grade changes and grade and calculating grade. I've been talking to Tom Kennedy and looking at what other towns do. You know, this isn't kind of a unique issue for Winchester. And, you know, they, from what I can see, they deal with it in a little more comprehensive way. We deal with it kind of in 1.5 lines. So, yeah, I'd like to look at that. See if we can improve that.
That would be outstanding. And you're talking about, I guess, I should have numbered these bullets. It would have been helpful. Referring to bullet
The second from the bottom.
second to last one, which is, yeah, which
Right.
ties into, though, is not the same as looking at several up the review calculations as they to grade as they relate to stories and floor areas.
Right. It's
not the same. I understand. It's
but there's a
similar.
lot of overlap there. You know, and how you look at it. There's certainly overlap there. So
Okay.
we calculating you know, grade to help us identify what is a story and how tall the building is. You know, we do have a pretty decent approach to that now, but you know, there are some things we should probably address.
Fantastic. Thank you. Assuming again that the board is okay with letting John sort of look
Yeah.
at that and come back.
Yeah, there are a few of them. I mean, that's kind of John's wheelhouse, and a few of these are calculation related. I mean, it's well, one I guess is a technical point, the special permit versus variance. That's a bigger discussion, but the FAR, the grade change, and how the grade change relates to site plan review.
You know, the FAR kind
I
of
think
ties
relate,
into
yeah.
the passive house. You know, as we
Exactly.
you know, we have, you know, for a lot of good reasons, been making the walls thicker and thicker.
Yes.
You know, the sections are just thicker. We went from that's a standard now that requires 2x6 construction, and now requires, you know, additional sheathing on the outside. So maybe it is to take a look at calculating from the inside of the wall, maybe using the standard that they use for calculating floor area for condominiums.
Yeah,
which is
I completely agree.
as a thought,
I completely agree with you. You're penalizing them if you measure FAR from external dimensions.
Right. Right. And you're kind of encouraging them to, yeah, it's not a,
To thin down the walls.
right. Or
It's
to,
certainly
yeah,
a direction to look at, and see if there's something there. Because floor area ratio also is sort of to give the mass of the building, and we don't actually use floor area ratio in many areas. I believe we only use it in the CBD. I believe we didn't put it in the MSMD. I can't remember if it's the MBTA 3A. I think it is.
yeah. And yeah, we did that for a lot of good reasons.
Yeah.
If you rely too much on it, you end up doing foolish things to just try to meet a number, and it kind of lose some utility in the building. It's
Yeah.
not always helpful. I mean, we've discussed it. You've really defined the outside of the building.
Yeah. Yeah.
How fussy you're going to be about what goes on inside the building. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's great. I'll just volunteer. I'll just throw out here that I would really like to dig into the confusion regarding special permit versus variance. That is something that, as I said at the last meeting, that without me prompting it, town manager said to me, "I really wish you guys would look into this because it's confusing and everybody's got sort of a different way of looking at it, reading the same words." So I think it's something that I'd like to be working with all individuals involved, and see if there's a way to clean that up. I mean, it can't be impossible to clean that up so that we don't have the planning board, the ZBA, the building commissioner, and the town council all having different opinions on whether something needs a special permit or a variance. It should be, when you look at it, it should be clear. And there'll always be edge cases. I understand that, but we've had in our last 6 months, we've had at least 2 cases where it was unclear. So I'll throw that out there. If the board is willing to let me start diving into that, that's what I would propose. And
Yeah,
if
No, that
anybody
sounds
else
great.
willing to spend any time, I understand, Carrie. I know you're doing a lot with the state of the town right now, and I don't know how many of these things sort of dovetail with what you're doing with the state of the town, like looking at the master plan, which you've been digging into, and things like that.
Yeah, so I sort of rearranged the list into clusters of things that I think kind of naturally go together, and it knocks out about 4 of them that would feed into the state of the town. Although I will say, I think our obligation to the state of the town is going to be making sure that we've made our process as comprehensible and efficient as we possibly can, and that would definitely include cleaning up definitions. So I wouldn't say that you're not working on state of the town by reviewing special permit v variance requirements, but I think specifically things we need to be able to report back because they relate to whether it's staff descriptions or potential for executing the master plan and optimizing all this commercial real estate they believe we have. I think I end up with reviewing site plan review for streamlining, special permit review for streamlining, reviewing the master plan and light industrial zoning, which will mostly be looking at the use table. I will say that I intentionally stepped back from being chair because the workload was a lot, and the state of the town is not any. I had 5 hours of meetings this week, not counting the work I'm doing on my own. So any help with any of these would be warmly welcome. But I think I think we have to be able to deliver on those at the end of the state of the town, which is a year and a half long process. And I think we should think out so that we can present this to them, what our timeline will be for having some of these things adjusted in the bylaw. So that's worth thinking about. and it might, if we do another, sort of chair change at the next election, it would be nice to have John presenting all of the technical data next spring. So that might be good timing. And then if the state of the town wraps up any of the bylaw changes would be ready for like a year from fall. And that would have not a ton of it touches the bylaw, but some of it does. I mean, if we look at streamlining processes, some of that will end up, as we've talked about before with the ZBA, some of that would need to be adjusted, and then use tables would need to be adjusted. And then a nice comprehensive report on where we are with the master plan. Could kind of happen.
That's super helpful, and it's probably more in depth than I was even asking for, because I don't think we can bite off everything here. I think this would take a dozen people 2 years to get everything done on this list.
Well, except some of it, a lot of it's out there. I mean, a lot of it, Carla's done a ton to streamline the processes already. Here comes the dog cameo. Hi, dog.
Perfect.
There you go. All right. Loves a Zoom cameo, this one. And then some of it, the master plan update, I think would be nice for fall, because it will sort of show us as, being part of state of the town. And then the definitions, I know Tom Kennedy and Carla were keeping a list of things that they thought would be helpful to have clarified. So I think some of this work is out there, and it's just kind of getting everything in one place. Some of it, the 4 that I'm sort of overlooking, design guidelines for the mod, the historic house inventory, what to do with signage, that might be a bit quicker, but some of those are years long projects for sure. I mean, protecting our historic resources is definitely a multi-year effort. It has been, it will be, it's just going to be ongoing.
Yeah, I was thinking about, and with regard to that, trying to come up with a system that'll kind of help us from identifying historic, resources that are at risk, notifying individuals that would be, I guess, involved, and then following up. So I kind of wanted to spend some time giving that a little thought and how that might work, whether it would be, looking at houses that are turning over, and then having a specific email list to copy and to alert. That might be a starting point for that. And then also I'd like to contribute. I don't know if I can create design guidelines for the mod, but I'd like to sort of help with that to the extent that we can do it. And then there were a couple other things, and we can maybe discuss these at a different meeting. But I guess since the last time we talked, I was thinking that one of the things we should do is kind of think proactively about 10 Converse Place. What kind of scale would we like to see? Review procedures for hearings in general. That might be something else that we think about. An example of which, I guess, when I guess the group for 10 Converse, whether they should have been sitting down while we deliberated or whether they should have been at the table, that might be something that we can clarify and just kind of get a sense of our procedures for hearings in general. Getting a hold of tear downs and demolitions, which relates to the historic properties, abandoned properties, empty lots. And then there was, we had talked about hiring a design consultant to work in Washington and Swanton. I think, or hiring a design consultant for something. And I think Dennis Carlone is working on Washington and Swanton. And I thought he is a very good, he's a very good designer for Winchester, because he really understands and appreciates the local architecture. But that name came up, and I don't remember where we stood on. We were at one of our meetings, we voted whether we wanted to have design consultants on some of our other projects, and I thought, well, he would be a good candidate. And then the last thing, however we do, I don't know how this came up, but Meineke could be a good friendly 40B, because we would have significant input on the design, and that's something that Dennis Carlone might do. And again, that might be way out in left field, given what we have in front of us. But that was just another thought that came across my desk.
Those
So
are all good ideas. Is there something that you would like to sort of spend some time digging into? And I'm not saying solve it, but maybe look at it and come back, in next month potentially, or the following month, and say, hey, I looked into this and here are some ideas on that. Because we're not going to get everything done.
right,
I appreciate Carrie's spirit, but we're not going to get it all done.
I
But
know.
if everybody if everybody sort of bites off something and then comes back, we can decide what is worth continuing on, and what, you might look at historic resources and say, this is a way bigger project. I
Mhm.
can't do anything on this, in which case we don't move on that, where you might come back and say, I got some good ideas, and we can start sort of hammering them down.
Yeah. All right. I'd like to start. Let me see if I can start with coming up with some systems that seem logical, and then we'll find out why they won't work or if they'll work, and we can take it from there. And I'll take a look at some of these other items as well and see if I can flesh them out a little bit.
That'd be great. I appreciate that, Jack.
Vis-a-vis the historic resources, I do know that has been an on and off discussion point with the historical commission for the past several years.
Mhm.
And you might want to tap them, in particular Michelle McCarthy,
Okay.
Janet Boswell, and Julie Broadwick. I know they're all passionate about it, so they may have
Okay.
some ideas as well. They may help you short circuit your effort.
Great.
And I actually, in the end, if you've got some kind of recommendation that merits a bylaw, if there should come to that, I'm sure they would jointly sponsor it with us.
Okay, great.
No, that's a great.
And what was the third? Michelle and Julie and Janet.
Janet Boswell.
That's great.
Taylor, I will just kick to you that the one that you sort of brought to the table here, which was investigating whether signage should be moved into the zoning bylaw, brought to you by the government regulations, asking us. I will say that might be the only one here that's truly seemed like some more of a bridesmaid and not a bride, as far as where it sort of goes. Developing a whole new bylaw, whole new thing to go into the bylaw, or revising what it is in its in the zoning bylaw, or revising it where it sits in the current town bylaws. Do you have any thoughts about that, as far as timing, and whether that's something that we want to be doing now, or is that something that can be put off to a later date in your mind?
The reason it was even brought up is because it was requested by that committee. I mean, I have confidence that the planning department can do this, but I can't say in all honesty that it should be a priority.
Okay. So unless the board disagrees, it feels like maybe that's the one for sure that maybe we could let Taylor know to report back to them that we probably aren't going to be taking on in the short term, and that we might come back to it, unless anybody disagrees totally with that.
Nope.
Okay. So Taylor, unless the planning department wants to take that on, I seems like it would be reasonable to let them know that this is not something that we have the appetite for right now, as far as any major changes in that, as far as the planning board.
Okay, got it.
So I think everybody, I appreciate everyone. I hope this was a good process. It's not perfect, but trying to come up with what people are interested in. If you're not interested in it, you're not going to do a good, as good a job as you will, as if it fits a task that you think is interesting and worthwhile. So thank you. And if and when you have something that you think is worth coming back and telling us, let me know, and we can add this as an agenda item to continue to bring back until it gets to the point where we want to move ahead as a board to like revise a bylaw, and then that'll become its own topic moving forward in that way. Okay, thank you for this. The only last thing that I realized, so there's nothing else on the agenda. There was one last thing that I realized, Taylor, you have probably I wanted to ask you about in your report, was you put in the capital improvement request form in here, and I wanted to know what direction you were looking for from us regarding that's the second last page of the packet in here. So whatever
Um,
tells us that.
yeah, Carrie, I don't know if you actually know anything about this. I think it came from State of the Town, maybe.
Wait,
Do
what
you
is
know?
this?
You could just say the so Mark Toogood reached
Yep.
out to all department heads asking us to look at capital improvement requests for the next 5 years.
Oh
That's a
yeah.
really long time.
Hotly debated how long to make it. The doomsday folks want it to be like a 6-month plan, and where it's like 6 months to 10 years. It was a wild discussion.
and
Yes.
we have a really short turnaround on this. It's like due the 20th. It's like due Friday.
Yeah.
So
Pro tip: do
I
not get on boards with Paris.
I don't know what we really should be doing here, but a capital improvement request really should be for anything that we think is going to be over over $30,000.
Why don't I are you around on Friday or tomorrow? Text me a time and I'll stop by and give you the state of the town perspective on this.
Okay, okay, yep, it's fine.
The only question I have would be is this is not the normal capital request form. This is something outside of the normal capital cycle. Are we sure of that? Like, because I know that every year Mark sends out something to all the departments and give us your capital requests, and then they come to capital and capital reviews those and ranks them. This seemed like it was something different because it seemed to
No,
the town. I'm not sure.
I don't think it's different. I think he's asking us to look at what we think we're going to be requesting over the next 5 years. And to me, the first, and maybe Carrie, we should talk about it more. But to me, the one that sticks out to me is the master plan.
Yeah.
If we're looking at 5 years, I mean, master plan. I mean, we're talking a minimum of $100,000 probably.
Yeah, I mean, I would take this opportunity to throw all the reports we can think of in here. I mean, if they're looking for expenditures, I would look for any studies we need to do around Holton and Cross. I mean, we can. I don't know if this is coming from CPA, from Capital, or for State of the Town. I would suggest just emailing him back and saying, what lens am I using for this? As far as State of the Town goes, they're still playing with the models, and they're trying to figure out how to adjust the projections and the algorithms that are currently used. So the 5-year number is not surprising, but I don't know which hat he's wearing here.
Question. I know there's been some side discussions about the need to have planning board's own attorney, an attorney that has specialty in our
Oh,
field.
right.
And
Yep.
I don't know if that would belong
Yeah.
in here.
I'm not sure that would be. I'm not sure that would be considered a capital request.
Right, that's why I'm not sure
asking.
which.
Yeah.
I do want to make sure that we represent the planning board as being underfunded. So I want to make sure we do capture items like what Jack just brought up. But
No,
I
good point,
this
Jack.
is-
Thanks for bringing that up. Yes. Yeah.
Capital's a
I'm sorry, Carrie, go ahead.
I agree that it's probably not for this form. But I do want to make sure that one of the data items that we need to upload to the materials that State of the Town will ruminate on is points about our funding that are probably inadequate for what the town wants to achieve. And that would include having a planning savvy attorney at our disposal. But I agree, it probably doesn't go on the sheet.
Okay, thanks.
I guess I would even go a little bit further that we do have a number of consultants and studies that we do fund from our operating budget. And I don't know whether this should be capturing those or not. We hire form in place. Is that under here? Is that under our own operating budget? It becomes a little bit complicated because since our very nature of what we do is hiring consultants, our budget is more full of things like that than other departments' budgets who don't normally hire consultants every year. So it becomes a little confusing when you talk about consultants and reports and things like that for the planning board more so than other departments.
Mhm.
And then what is it what is it called? Open.gov or OpenGov or whatever it is? What's the license for that? Is that a capital request or is that a,
It depends on the price.
right? I think it's around 20 grand. So that's
so
something we
it-
would probably want to get on here. So that it's due next week, you mean?
No, I think it's due the 20th.
20th being like 3 days from now.
Yeah.
Well, we would not be quorum if Brian was also able to stop by and the three of us could try to put all three lenses on.
Yeah, I mean, if we can find time to do that, that would be great.
Well, Thursday's a holiday, so Taylor's not going to be available.
Yeah.
I can't do Thursday anyway, but I have some time tomorrow.
we can hash this out offline. They don't. No one else needs. The town doesn't need to hear our calendar trials and
Okay.
tribulations.
One more doodle poll.
But thank you, Taylor, for bringing this up because I meant to have this in your upfront and I forgot to mention that. So I believe that's the end of our business agenda. Is there any other business that anyone would like to bring up? Seeing none, I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call vote. Jack,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Carrie.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, WinCam. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Ian. And we lost our one member of the public, but thank you, Maura, who was here for a while.
Thank you, Chair.
Night all.
Good night, Cameo.
Good night.
Yep. Good night.